Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
And welcome back, everybody, listeners and viewers, to episode 4 of today's Two Dads podcast. Again, that's TOO Dads, and that guy there, well, the other guy you're going to hear is Sid, and if you're on YouTube, the guy you can see is Sid, and I'm Phil. And Sid, we're back, episode 4. We're here.
And Phil's the Uber man, and I'm the other man.
That's the way it works.
It's Friday, man.
And it's Podcast Friday, yeah.
Podcast Friday.
There we go.
So it's our favorite day of the week.
It is. We look forward
As
to
dads,
this.
you could not get a more better day than Friday. And
Friday, absolutely.
as much as people tried all day to remove the jam out of my donut, I managed to stave it off.
Nice.
So no one will remove the jam out of my donut on a Friday.
Good.
That is for sure. And it is a special day.
Oh,
Special day in Melbourne.
it is.
Australia.
It is.
You do not have to wear a mask outside.
No. You can go outside.
You can actually go to the shops.
Yep.
You can go to a restaurant and sit inside and not eat out on the curb like an animal.
Yep. Yes, that's true. There's no curfew. We can have people.
You can go wherever you like.
Yep. And
go wherever you like.
It is a good podcast Friday. And just a reminder, we might have some new listeners. The name Two Dads, it being TOO, I mean, it has some meaning behind it. Although some people look at it strangely and go, why TOO? Can we remind people the reason for that?
Well, one, we love a pun.
A good pun.
It's low-hanging fruit for comedy, but it's gold. Okay, it's
sometimes the cheap.
It's universal.
Well, the cheap seats are good. Sometimes
seats are the best.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And 2, we're very much like dads. We are
very much.
We are so much like dads. So
absolutely.
Everything we do is like dads. It is the center of our universe.
Pretty much.
Love being dads. I don't think we've ever really had any ambition for being anything else.
No, well, that's what matters the most to both you and I. That's one thing we are definitely agree on, as we do a lot of other things. And the one thing we very quickly agreed on is the purpose of this podcast is to write a love letter to common sense. And each week,
that's right,
we pick the fortunate topic that is going to receive our love letter. Who is that?
So common sense is like the shallow end of the swimming pool.
How's that?
It's like the shallow end of the swimming pool.
That's right.
So this week, look, I've had a lot of people ask about what is the podcast about.
Mm-hmm.
They all assume the podcast is only about for cars, because I'm obsessed with cars.
You are?
Been obsessed with cars my whole life, and have a lot to say about cars. Mm-hmm. So the title of this podcast, episode number 4, is called PHEV, EV or Hybrid.
PHEV, EV or hybrid?
That's right.
Okay. This is interesting.
And if you happen to drive or own a Camry, switch off now. Because you're not going to like a lot of the stuff you're going to hear. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be exclusive in any way, but
we're attacking Camrys, are we?
If you're on the freeway and you're behind a line of cars and everyone's doing 60 or 80 in a 100 zone, the chances are there's someone in a Camry right at the front.
On the right hand.
Because, they're just trying to be safe and everyone else is a maniac. So
yeah, right hand. Yeah, look. Okay. And I'm interested in this.
EV or hybrid.
PHEV, EV or hybrid. All right. Well, you pick the topics and we get to talk about them, and you ask the questions, and I'll chime in as and when and put my 5 cents in. So kick it off.
Our electric future.
Wow.
With a question mark. Our electric future.
Yes.
Okay. Obviously, we have one of the themes running through the show is, what is the pun of the week?
Ah.
Okay. So
absolutely.
The pun of the week.
Well, we've got to.
I'm going to need some help with saying this, because I don't think I'm going to say it right.
Okay. All right. Let me help you.
So, if you found yourself it's probably still operating. If you found yourself in regional areas of our state, regional Melbourne, you may have been able to have your shot on vaccine.
Oh,
vaccine.
okay. Oh, wow.
Or if you're a Star Wars fan, Jabba the Bus.
Jabba the Bus.
Jabba the Bus.
In vanilla. Jabba the Bus.
Vaccine, or Jabba the Bus.
Jabba the Bus. So you just rock on up and get the hut. Jabba the Bus. That is fantastic. That is great. That is great.
And also for this, I also found another one. This is going to be hard to actually. Just
before you move on, just for the listeners, you can move on to the next one. I'll explain. For those listening, it is a bus where it travels around regional Victoria, and it makes it easy for people to get what they need in order to fight what is going on at the moment. To put it that way. So it is a bus that goes out and goes around, and Jabba the Bus is what it has been nicknamed. But we just thought the pun was just too good. Us being Star Wars fans, clearly, that we thought it was brilliant.
It's gold.
It's great.
And endorsed by the government. It's wonderful.
Yeah, and hey, George
if you're going to spend the taxpayers' money, at least make it something hilarious.
That's right. That's right.
So I'm trying to work out how to explain the bonus one. The bonus one.
What a bonus pun.
A bonus pun.
Wow.
In the CBD in Melbourne, down an alleyway. Right at the back.
Sounds dodgy already.
It's right at the back of an adult shop.
Then it really is dodgy.
It is a restaurant, a Chinese restaurant.
Yeah.
Which our viewers and the listeners will know is one of our very favourite subjects. Anything Chinese.
But they're great at it. They are great at the pun, and they do it on purpose because they love a pun, I reckon. And they know that we love a pun, us Westerners.
So it's at the back of an adult shop.
Yeah.
Okay.
God help us. Here we go.
This is real. I swear to you, this is real.
I believe you.
It's called a For New Come Den.
Is it in a basement? By chance?
New Come Den.
New Come Den. There you go. That is gold. That is absolutely gold. And
you couldn't write it if it was true.
Now you've seen this with your own eyes, is that right? Have you heard of it? Seen it?
Seen it on Urban Spoon.
Urban Spoon.
I haven't seen it.
Well, you travel a lot.
Myself.
Well, if you travel a lot and you happen to go past,
it's in the CBD.
I know you will take a photo and we'll get proof. And if anything,
that's right.
We've proven that the blind line exists. So if that exists.
I've got an update on the blind line.
Oh, well, we'll get to that. But
stay tuned. There's an update on the blind line.
This new come den is legit.
New come
is legit. That's gold. Oh, it's a great fun. All right.
Okay.
Let's jump into.
Let's stick on topic.
So we're talking about the PHEV.
Now, obviously, we cannot. I did not want to make a stereotype of cars of just men talking about cars.
Yes.
Is not the aim of the common sense part of the podcast. So I have to phrase the question ethically. So is it right for you to buy a Camry? is the sub question.
Right.
Is it right for you to buy a Camry? So we have phrased the subject ethically. Okay.
Right.
Now, there has been a lot of information out there, a lot of car manufacturers, a lot of people who are looking at cars, and now it's in front of your mind now because you think, maybe we should buy an electric vehicle.
Yep.
It's more environmentally friendly. It saves fuel. It's it makes you feel good because you're doing something very good for the planet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so there's three types, three main types. So an EV is short for electric vehicle.
Yep.
So
Agree.
this is a vehicle that its sole source of power is a cell like your mobile phone. So you have to charge it like your mobile phone, and you'll use it, and it'll run out of charge. Then when you get close to the end, you've got to charge it. It's exactly the same.
Yep.
I know it's making it very simple, but the basic for functionality, it's like an iPhone that has wheels on it.
Yep. But basically,
that's an EV.
Basically, because
right.
It makes sense.
So a PHEV, as it's known, stands for plug-in hybrid electric vehicle.
Okay.
So that is it has got a normal kind of engine as well as the assistance of the battery and the sort of electric motor. Okay, so you can charge the PHEV vehicle the same places that you would charge your EV or electric vehicle.
Right.
Then we have hybrids. So a hybrid does not need to plug in.
Oh.
Their normal engine.
I'm learning, folks.
Powers the electric motor and the batteries. So normally the engine has some sort of an alternator that creates the power that goes into the batteries, and that power is used by the electric motor. So there is for combination of the engine, your normal style engine, as well as an electric motor. Okay, so these are the three main types. Now I'll go into further
it's interesting. That last one's interesting.
Further explanation, because it's not often made quite clear. All the car companies have some kind of these three types, or one of each. There is a few car companies like for Kia, for example, that has one model that has all three types. So one model car, you can choose
what you want.
From a normal engine, either petrol or diesel, or they've got a 100% electric version, which is the EV, and they have a hybrid that you're able to plug in and charge.
Okay. Gotcha.
And as well as just a normal hybrid that you don't have to plug in.
Yeah, the one that the fuel
does everything on its own.
Which I've got questions about that one because that's interesting.
So the main purpose of a hybrid is to be more fuel efficient.
Right. I was going to say
because the engine for petrol has the sort of assistance of the electric motor, which it also helps for charging. So
so it charges itself basically, right? Is that the simplest way to put it? It charges itself?
That's the simplest way to put it.
So you get more mileage out of a tank of fuel?
Yep.
Okay.
Because the car will work it out for itself if it's going to use. So say, for example, now you're going through a school zone doing under 40 kilometers an hour. The car will automatically itself switch over for electric mode.
All right. So it's governed based on...
And will run on the electricity. Obviously, you can always switch it on. You want to go.
Otherwise, the computer...
On full EV mode.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you leave it on auto and it'll do everything on its own.
Wow, okay.
So there is another, for example, if a Mazda, exactly the same as the one that I have, they have a different version of what is a hybrid system. It's called a mild hybrid.
Mild.
So the engine itself actually stores the charge on an onboard system.
Which is called a battery?
It stores, it's not a battery though. That's what I'm saying. It's an onboard system. It's completely separate from your battery.
Right. Okay.
And it stores that charge. So, say for instance, when you're at the lights, the engine will go on start-stop mode.
Yep.
So your engine will stop, and everything else in your car, your air conditioning, your radio, your lights, and everything will run off the stored energy. But it's not the battery.
Gotcha.
It's not the car's battery.
Okay. Yep.
And here's a little known fact as well. Even EVs have a battery. So like
really?
they have, yeah. This is the strange part. Everyone thinks, well, it's EV. You just plug the charger in like the phone.
Yeah.
Everything runs off the battery in the car. But no, they also need the same as a normal car. It needs a battery.
Okay.
To start everything up, and to have something for the cell of the car to switch on and off with.
Okay.
So it needs another source.
It kind of makes sense.
Okay, so hopefully I'm not going far off the mark with all the explanation, but the reason why I decided that we do this on the podcast, because we talk about a lot of heavy subjects.
Yes, we do.
And maybe it's nice to have a little bit of something that is sort of an aha thing, because I know that all the knowledge amongst most people is not really 100%, because it's all the flashes of what you see advertising, and you think, maybe that's good, maybe it's not. Am I ever going to own some sort of an electric vehicle? So I've done spreadsheets on it.
Of course you have.
As Phil knows.
God, I'm not surprised.
It takes me at least a year to find a new car.
Yes.
And to know that that's the right car for me.
There is a lot of research that goes into it.
And that's true. So the basics of electrification is that it's all in the ownership. If you do a lot of short trips, and you have off the street parking where you live, and where you work, you have off the street parking, where there are more and more workplaces now that have a charging station.
It's becoming more popular. Absolutely, they're popping up.
It's become more popular. I was actually in for Chatson's shopping centre once. I was with my son, and this lady walks up to us and she goes, would you know where I can charge my Tesla? And we're just like,
you guys are concierge.
No, but
you didn't have high vis on, did you, by chance?
No. We're
I'm just checking.
Yeah, it was. We just walking in the shopping centre, and she just asked, where I can charge my Tesla.
You should have said in my cigarette lighter.
If you get this really long extension cord,
you just plug it into the PowerPoint.
Just plug it in and ask no one to fall over it. So I mean, it's an odd situation which you never really thought you'd hear.
Well, we probably will hear one day. You got a charger? Why? Your phone dead? You go, nah, my car's dead. I need some juice in the car. But you're right. It's becoming more and more.
Range anxiety is a real thing.
Well, because how much you can get out of a full charge? Is that the correct terminology?
And it's all relative. Like you cannot use the charge 100. You cannot use 100% of the charge.
Okay.
So we'll just stick to EVs. I'll try to move along fast and not.
Okay.
And not take 4 hours to explain.
Yeah, man. Okay. We've decided, we agreed, podcasts have to have a time limit, right?
Got to have a time limit. Just checking in.
Just checking in. Keep going.
So an EV, right, is 100% electric. Okay. Yeah. Now, really, for Tesla, was the first of any company to actually make EV sexy. Like it's
true. Yeah, because they've been around for a while before Tesla came along, right?
They've been around for ages, and they were and they were always a joke.
Yeah, and
they're always like weird little.
Big in China. To go back to our They're massive in China. In fact, a lot of them
They're
in
huge
China.
in China.
They're massive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're huge in there. Well, speaking of Chinese, they're a real. They are really turning into a huge force in the market, and we're going to see a lot.
Yeah, they were early
of
adopters.
the Chinese-made full electric cars. There is already one available, at least one, which is widely available, and that's for the MG.
Oh,
There
yes.
is an MG
That's right.
SUV that is 100% electric, and it's low 40 grand.
Wow.
Which is an absolute steal.
That's a bargain.
And it's something I would highly recommend that you actually have a look at and see if it works for you, because the price is on par with anything else anyway. So the range of one of those is roughly around 300 Ks at best.
See, that's not a lot when you hear it, when you think about it, right? Because is that relative to how hard you drive the car?
That's just an average figure.
Okay.
It's not relative to anything, because one thing that affects how electric cars work is for the temperature, outside temperature.
Oh, right.
So in very cold weather, the batteries are less efficient.
Because they've got to warm up. They've got to...
Yeah. So to put it in terms, it's exactly the same as your phone. So, after you've had your phone for a few years, it doesn't last as long on a charge anymore.
Yeah, it gets
same deal.
Yeah.
Same deal. And and in all electric cars, the major component of the car is the battery.
Yeah. Well, that raises other questions, doesn't it, around the environmental impact, right?
That's right. So one of the many things I like to say when people have a conversation about electric, I go, well, you should not choose to have an electric car only because you want to be environmentally friendly and only because of emissions, because that all the electricity has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
All right. So at this point in Australia, it's more than likely going to come from the coal-fired power plants. In the States, north in the Mallee.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
So as far as being environmentally friendly, unless you've got a whole lot of solar panels and the house battery at your place that you can charge your car from.
Well, it's displacing it, right? It's displacing the environmental impact from fuel emissions to carbon emissions, right? And from the purpose of the generation of electricity.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be, if the car had some sort of solar paneling on the exterior, like on the bonnet and on the roof, where it was able to generate enough power. They are doing that. Oh, they are
doing that. Yep.
Someone stole my idea.
The roof, their roof glass has solar panels in them, so while the car's standing still, it'll help charge. It's not enough.
No, I was going to say it's not enough.
Something is better than nothing at this point.
But then again, that's subjected to, and dependent on the weather as well.
Yep.
All right.
So I'll keep going.
Yeah.
For Tesla.
Yep.
For Tesla.
Yep.
They are the number one when it comes to full electric cars, because they are far ahead of everyone else. The motors are only made by them and not sold to anyone else. And all the proprietary for technology is only done by them.
Yeah.
And one of the main features for Tesla is that it's infinitely upgradable, the same as your phone. That's why I keep making the comparison to an iPhone. They will update the firmware in your car while it's on charge somewhere.
Yeah.
You can find out all these new features.
Wi-Fi connection, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So the car's always been the software, any faults, anything like that, it's always been updated from the factory. So it's infinitely upgradable. So the same car that you had when you bought it 3 or 4 years later, it's all new software, new things it'll do. I do actually know someone that has a Model 3.
Okay.
And he told me he will never buy a normal car ever again.
And
He goes, it's unbelievable. You don't
based
even
on
have
what?
to. You don't have to do anything when it's time for a service.
Yeah.
They send a service van out. They know where your car is.
They sent out a jabber.
They send out a jabber.
Wow.
And they come and service your car wherever it is. So obviously it's
That's
electric.
phenomenal.
So there's not much actual for all the components. You know what I mean? So it's only a safety check. So you get a safety check,
a diagnostics check
every 2 years.
Wow.
It's a safety check, and that's it.
And that's because at the moment that's probably the best way they can do it. But eventually get to the point where they'll log in remotely. Most likely.
They already do that. They do the
Well, there you
diagnostics,
go.
but they need to do.
As in to
someone
check
needs
into
to
the
do the physical
connections.
safety check. Yes.
Yeah. Understand. So all the checks of the.
So the other thing for Tesla as
tear.
well is that unlike what you may be used to buying a car, again, it's like an iPhone. Like you go on the Apple website, you choose all the configuration, you choose the color, you do everything, and then it rolls up at your door. Exactly the same with Tesla. There's no dealer. You don't go into a dealership. You just order it online.
Isn't there a dealership at Chatty?
It's a showroom.
Oh, excuse.
It's
I
not
do
a
stand
dealership.
corrected. I do stand corrected. That's true. That is absolutely very true. Always wondered how that works. That's phenomenal when you think about it.
Yeah.
That's pretty phenomenal.
It's a game changer.
Well, it's a huge game changer. And like you said, it's infinitely upgradable, except will it get to the point where as technology changes with, semiconductor chips and things like that, will it get to the point where the software will only be compatible with a certain technology sort of, architecture, and earlier models won't be able to be upgraded? Because that does happen with the phones.
Yeah, our friend Elon Musk has said that everyone that's ever had one, upgrades are infinite and will never.
There you go.
There will never be a time where you won't be eligible for upgrades.
So, irrespective of if you bought a car this year, and in 10 years' time, you'll be running exactly the same software.
No, it'll upgrade it. It's exactly the same.
That's what I'm saying, but it'll be at the same level.
Yeah.
Like a car that's 10 years old.
Obviously, the hardware is not going to change, but
the software
will always work on the software that runs with the hardware.
Exactly. The software in your 10-year-old Tesla will be exactly the same as buying a brand new one.
Yep.
And the options and things like that.
So for Teslas, you are paying a price point. So for the Model 3, for the entry level car, it's in the 60s up to 70s, and it'll go for the one that has all the fruit. It is sort of over 100. The Model 3.
Yeah.
Then there's a Model Y, which is like an SUV version of the Model 3. So the Model 3 is sort of like a Mazda 3.
Yeah.
That size.
The sedan size, right?
No, it's
smaller again.
For more of a hatchback. Yeah.
Hatchback.
So it's
smaller again. Okay.
Yeah. And the Model Y is like a slight SUV version of the hatchback.
Is that the one with the doors that fly up?
No. That's the Model X with the Falcon wing doors.
Yeah.
That's the SUV
Deluxe
7-seater option, which starting price is $250,000.
Wow.
In Australia.
We're talking that's Porsche and Ferrari territory there.
That's right. And then there's for the Model S, which is the large, like size of a Commodore.
Yeah.
And now they have a few different versions of those. So it's at least 100 up to, and that's also up to sort of a 250.
Okay.
All depends on
how you spec it
options.
out. Right?
And it's the same as how a normal car, you got a small engine, large engine, or a high performance engine. It's the size of for the battery pack.
Yeah.
So with the one with the largest with the largest for battery pack, and you can have up to 3 motors on the new version.
3 motors.
And it runs the equivalent to 1,000 horsepower.
Wow.
To 0 to 100 in under 2 seconds. That's the full fruit for the Model S for Tesla. That's the one right. That's the one right at the top of the range.
Under 2 seconds. It took me
under
longer.
2 seconds.
Took me longer to pick my glass up and have a drink then. That's insane.
The little sidebar for that, along with the electric car, with our sort of electric future, the whole electric for revolution. Can you imagine something that weighs nearly 3 tons that goes 0 to 100 in under 2 seconds?
That's insane. That's what I'm saying. It's just insane.
What happens when you have an accident? Like, I don't think...
The impact that you'd be hitting.
Yeah, I don't think anyone that can afford that car, I don't think they have the reflexes of a Formula One driver.
I was just going to ask, how does that compare to a F1 car?
It's very close.
You know what I'm saying?
It's very close. And can you imagine the positive? Can you imagine all the forces exerted on the occupants in something that's that quick? Yeah,
that impact.
Yeah, and that's available to someone if you can afford the price tag.
Yeah.
So that's another thing about the future that doesn't seem...
I don't understand why you need to do that. Why is it so important to go from 0 to 100 in under 2 seconds? I don't understand.
It sells cars because, people want to go, my Tesla out there will do 0 to 100 under 2 seconds. I bet your Porsche is not as fast as that.
Yeah, well, there are people that do. That's true. There are. We joke, but it's a reality, right? That is certainly a marketing point which people look at for some reason.
So I think that's one of the I think that's one of the future issues with EVs as they get really to this point where no other normal vehicle can go anywhere near it with the terms of what it can do. And these new versions may be capable of up to 600 Ks on one charge. So that is absolutely a big game changer if that ends up that way.
Yeah, 600.
So the other problem you have with EVs is the infrastructure. The infrastructure is just not there yet. But there's a lot of people that have bought electric cars. Like if you look for the Model 3, there are absolutely heaps of them.
Really?
Heaps.
You drive a lot, so you see a lot. So
I see heaps. So
it's at that price point, right, as well.
Yeah, it's still expensive for a hatchback.
Yeah, but it's at a price point which people are prepared to go, you know what, I will go electric for that sort of price point. And it's lease. I mean, it's an assumption, but getting a lease isn't difficult, and you would assume that a lot of them are on lease, like some sort of payment plan, right? Yeah.
And they will do all that from the website. Every single thing.
Everything.
Arrange every single thing. I even did it myself. You go on the website, you choose everything. And it gives an end price. They give you all the options for finance.
Add to cart.
You can pay by PayPal.
Does it have Afterpay?
You can buy
in 4 equal installments.
I'm sure it's there. But so you just think about it in terms of that, how the ownership experience. You just do everything yourself. There's no dealer. The car just shows up on a truck.
Hey, mine
in front of your house.
Mine showed up in the truck.
They send you
during lockdown.
You use your phone and you just
tap on.
Yeah. The car just opens.
You use Pay Wallet from your iPhone. Seriously, you open you use this to open the car.
I'm serious to you.
I'm holding my phone, people on the who are listening on Anchor and Spotify.
And you can hop on your phone. You can switch the air conditioning on. You can switch the heated seats on.
That I understand. That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, software. The car's basically, like you said, a phone on wheels, right?
So one of the latest upgrades, it has a mode for pets. So the car will know if you have left your 3-legged dog in the car, and it'll slot the windows and leave the air conditioning
running
on for your pet. Yeah. So it automatically knows.
That's hang on. How does it automatically know? It must have some sort of
With all the sensors in the car, they've worked out what the algorithm would be.
Detection.
Yeah. Not the pet detective.
Not the pet
Pet
detective.
detection.
Yeah.
Alrighty then.
Not Ace Ventura. That's amazing.
So,
I did not know that.
Like if you think one that where you live you have off the street parking and you can install the proper 3-phase for charger, which is a more high capacity for charging point, you can install it in your house, and you don't drive any more than 300 kilometers a day, which is most people.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they most will do it in half a week, maybe. Yeah.
You'll find when you go to the shops, there's always a charging station, but now it's not easy anymore because more people have electric vehicles. There's not enough for charge. Like if you're relying on that when you go to the local shopping centre, that there's going to be somewhere for you to charge, it's not going to happen. It's only luck.
It's like when you go to put air in your tyres. There's always someone there when I go to put air in my tyre.
That's right.
Always.
You got to wait.
Always.
Yep.
But it's always. I don't understand how it happens every single time that I go, I'm going to put air in my tyre, and I rock up and there's a dude there already. But every other time I will drive past, no one's there. Just when I want to use it.
And then you get that same dude that thinks that he can just stick it on the tyre and walk away. They go, and then you're looking at him, mate, you've got to hold it on.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's interesting.
So that's a few of the things that is not upfront about EVs. Yes, there's no fuel costs, obviously. There's very little cost for maintenance. All you have is your tires and your brakes.
And other depreciables, maybe bearings and stuff like that. And
yeah, but that's
you don't have to. Yeah. There's nothing else, right? There's no fluids. There's no air filter. Is there an air filter for the aircon?
No,
not even that, right?
Oh well, there will be a filter for the aircon.
Yeah, for that.
These are all the things that they do on the service that they will come to your house.
Yeah.
And I've seen the utes. They have a ute that has all the name on the side of it.
Yeah.
Windscreen wipers? Do a service.
Has a obviously for the windscreen wipers, the water. So that'd be the only real fluid sort of component.
And electric cars, especially for all the Teslas, have a frunk.
Yes, it does.
Yes, a front trunk, because there is no engine.
So there's extra space.
Storage space. Yeah. So a
front and back,
sedan will have a storage. Yeah, front and back will have a storage space of like an SUV size, all up. But you got a little bit in the front.
Yeah.
And a huge bit in the back.
Because all the componentry is you sit on it. It's underneath, right?
It's like the vehicle equivalent of some sort of a mullet. There's still a party in the front and all the business in the back.
That's right. That's right.
So this is just an explanation so that you can understand what is meant by EV and what are because obviously there's no situation where everything is going to be super perfect. You cannot hop in your EV and go, okay, I'm going to drive to Queensland. Obviously, when there's no restrictions from the border.
When the Queen opens up, it's true to come. But you're right.
You'll be able to fill your frunk with all the fruit that you can get over the border, and no one's going to know anything because they're all going to check in the back.
That's right.
There's nothing in the front, mate.
But you could plan that. You'd have to plan it. A trip of that distance. I mean, you've done that trip before. You've done that trip in a day. As in, you've driven from Melbourne to Gold Coast in a day, right?
We left home at 5:30 a.m.
Wow.
And we arrived at reception in the hotel in Surfers at 1:30 a.m.
the next day.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And that was straight through.
That is insane.
I've never stopped for fuel and drink, but there's no way you could do that in an electric vehicle.
That'd have to be split over maybe 2, maybe 3 days, because you'd have to plan.
Yep.
On where
you have to find hotels that have somewhere to charge.
Yeah. Exactly.
but therein lies the limitation of an electric vehicle in Australia. Because you can do that with any normal car.
Yeah.
You could do that. You could do that with the PHEV. You could do that
because it's got fuel. Yeah.
You could do that with any hybrid. You could just have everything in your car, have all your family, and you just go.
Yeah.
Because you know that there's service stations.
You'll find
everywhere.
something along the way, right?
Yeah. So that is one of the main drawbacks for EV. It's really much more suited to a second car. If you're a dad or mum, your family,
something like a runabout, something you do more local.
Yeah. Obviously, if you're single and well-heeled, it's fine because you can always hire another car if you need to go interstate, or you just fly anyway.
Well, that's right. Depending on how quick you want to get there, right? So
probably the Goldilocks of the bunch out of all this whole new electric future is the PHEV, so the plug-in hybrid, because you get all the benefits of your normal car, for quote unquote.
Yep.
And you also have the option of electric and the combination for both. So if you are somewhere where you can plug in, you can do it.
Yeah, you've got that.
If you are nowhere, if you have not had the opportunity to plug in, you can run the battery down and the car just runs off the normal engine.
Yeah. And
it'll charge as you drive.
That's right. Yeah.
So a lot of companies have some sort of a PHEV. Nearly every car manufacturer has a plug-in hybrid. So there is the compromise though, because the batteries need to go somewhere. And it's extra weight and extra load.
Yeah, fuel tank
overall.
Which means more power needed to move. Basic physics, right?
Yeah, so it makes some of the efficiencies will kind of get lost in the weight.
Yeah, it's a compromise.
Yeah. So hybrids are probably the most obvious of the three, really, because everyone would have seen a hybrid name tag on the side.
Yeah,
especially Camrys. Yeah. So can you imagine being stuck in an elevator with the Camry owner going on about his hybrid and how it's so fuel efficient? Says no one ever.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah. That's exactly right.
So the hybrid version is the same as the PHEV essentially, but it's just that there's nowhere to plug it.
You don't plug it in. It's the fuel. It's like having it on board. The engine's it's like a generator. Like you put diesel fuel in a generator to create power.
Yeah. So normally what they do is they put a slightly smaller engine to what would normally be in that model car. And then
you got to fit everything in there, right?
For the electric, for the drivetrain.
Okay.
As far as handling and enjoyment, I think really if you're buying a Camry, that's the last thing on your mind. The last thing on your mind. I always have the image of someone. I firmly believe that there is no one sleeping outside the dealership just waiting for that new model of the Camry to come out. I heard they changed the lights.
I'm sure.
Unbelievable.
I'm sure there's one.
It's a game changer.
There's one person. I'm sure there's one person. No. I'm sure you'd be surprised. There's a lot of things that have happened in the world in the last 2 years that.
It's like walking into Starbucks and going, "I'll just have a coffee, thanks." And they go, "Okay, sir, what kind of coffee would you like?" "No, I'll just have coffee, thanks." "Would you like a tall, long macchiato?" "I'll just have a coffee." Yeah. These are the people that have Camrys. The people got no ambition. in
It's really a
anything.
sore point for you, isn't it? It's a really a sore point.
Oh, it is. It is.
So I
It's
feel,
like
I
walking
feel
into a
like,
shoe shop and just going, "I'm a size 8. I'll just take whatever's on the shelf." It's the same.
they look good. I'll take that one.
I don't
Do
even
you
care what it
provide?
looks like. I'll just take it only because I need shoes.
That's right. You've provided a lot of context, and in the theme of our podcast of writing a love letter to common sense, I feel like you've built this up, and there's something which it, you're going to drive this one home now. The common sense part. Let's hear it.
Well, the common sense part is that there is a factor of unknown. Even at this stage, obviously, we've had hybrids around for many years. Please don't mention the Prius. That's even worse than a Camry. I didn't even realize that they're allowed to sell those for men.
They're using them as taxis use them, right? I think I've seen them as taxis or
Yeah, well, look,
drive share or whatever it is.
Yeah, well, look, it makes sense because it's just a small version of a bus. That's all.
Yeah.
It's just for people to hop on and hop off.
True.
So
It is new technology. While it's been around for a while, the technology is becoming more and more refined, as technology does, right? I mean, you look at the very first mobile phone, and you and I got the same model mobile phone, the very first one.
the
you compare
Novotel.
that. You compare that. Yeah. You compare that to what's available now on the market, and that's just the advancements in technology.
Yeah, screen wasn't even in color.
No,
it had an orange globe in the back, but it wasn't even in color.
That's right. That's exactly right.
But I think for the common sense approach, it's just to help people, kind of feel more confident when they're making a choice, because you need to choose what is going to suit your lifestyle for at least the next 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
at least sort of for 3 up to 5 years. All depends on how long you're going to keep your car.
Well, typically on leases, they tend to roll over, right? That seems to be the way that, and I don't want to, maybe I'm being general, but it's the most common or most widely used approach when it comes to, cars and purchasing a car. People like to have a new car and then like to upgrade it every 5 years or so. Hence the reason why you've got 5-year plans. You've got to make sure the balloon doesn't balloon out too much. You've got to take that into consideration.
Yep. So I do have a few pieces of very firm advice. Okay, when you buy a car and you see this in your windscreen.
For our listeners,
right?
We've got a sticker. We've got a sticker that we're looking at.
So this is what the government mandates to actually explain to people about how the emissions of the car and the fuel consumption, how many litres per 100, right?
Yep.
When you buy the car and this is still in your window, please take it off. It's not there so that you look at it and go, no, we're getting, 8 litres per 100 kilometres. No, it's there just at the point of purchase. That's it. So please take it off. Right?
Oh, well, there you go. That's the first thing.
That's
so it's
a welcome piece of advice for common sense.
It's a fuel consumption sticker, also with the CO2 emissions. That should be what, grams per?
Yeah.
How many Ks?
So CO2 grams per kilometre. How many grams per kilometre your car's?
Yeah. Gotcha.
And if one of your mates says to you, "Hey, buy this from eBay, it'll make your car sound like it has a turbo on it," you need to seek some psychiatric help, because it does the opposite for fuel efficiency. Actually, it is.
What is that? What is that? Just for our listeners, because
it's a whistle. It's a whistle that you screw into the tailpipe. Yeah.
And what does
you think it's a joke? But I've seen many people with this in the tailpipe.
Is it just a mimic? just to mimic the sound of a turbo.
Apparently, it does not.
So what they
but
do is
this
they literally, it's like they plug the tailpipe.
Yeah,
like
so you are ruining the efficiency of your car by hampering the exit of exhaust gases.
Hey man, we ain't falling for no banana in the tailpipe.
It's a banana in the tailpipe. Go ahead. You have the bananas.
We ain't falling for no banana in the tailpipe. So people
So
do this.
please,
Goodness me.
if you happen to listen to this podcast or to watch it on YouTube, and you have this in your car, outside in your parking structure, go now. Go now and remove it. Okay? Because you're lucky we're even speaking to you.
There are some odd things that you can buy off market. I'll be honest. I don't understand half of them, but
yeah,
clearly they're in demand if they're available.
So that's a welcome piece of a consumer advice. And while I was out and about, I also saw this.
Oh yeah, this one. You did show me this one. This one is familiar,
mate.
We've got a
$180,000 Merc.
It is a Merc. What
AMG?
Sticker.
It's it's a C63S, which is
AMG
a good part
Mercedes.
between $160,000 to $180,000, and he's put
for our
a
listeners,
McDonald's sticker.
Yeah, above the, what's that say? Above the Mercedes?
AMG. So instead of the M,
yeah,
he's got a McDonald's M.
To replace the M in AMG.
Yeah, for Mercedes.
Is that considered sacrilege?
That is considered.
You don't even have a word for it,
the virtual of a pork in a synagogue.
Oh my good lord!
You've taken pork into a synagogue.
What would drive someone to do that? I mean,
again,
first of
if
all,
you happen to be
that's the car
on Spotify or on YouTube and watching this, and this is your car, go now, right now,
remove
it.
Has it been stuck on
service in the Merc dealer?
Well,
now all the people just run out the back laughing.
Makes you wonder.
Oh, sacrilege. So well, I feel happy that I have
got that off your chest. You had to. I mean, you've been hanging on that for a while. You've been hanging on to that for a while. But I mean, you've raised some good points when it comes to making consideration when it comes to electric vehicle. It's going to be more and more, as a future.
Yeah.
People are going to look at that as an option. And I've considered it. Well, I was considering it as an option at the time. I thought, well, the amount of what I needed for me wasn't available as an electric vehicle. And I drive the LDV Trail Rider, which is the cab chassis ute. But it won't be long, which they already have. It's not like they haven't, but it won't be long until that becomes mainstream in the market. That sort of ute that's electrified and you can get good mileage out of it.
But there is. So Ford have made an F-150 that is.
There you go. And that's not a light car.
Fully EV, and you can actually plug your house. It'll run your house for 11 hours.
So you can plug the house into the car.
Yeah, it's called the Ford F-150 Lighten. So,
wow. So
on a full charge. Yep.
So if in the event like today that what we experienced in Melbourne, listeners and those who live in Melbourne, what we're talking about, we had some full-on weather and there was a lot of power outages. So if you were to lose power, you could plug your house into your F-150 and at least have on full charge.
You can run the whole house for 11 hours.
Wow. You think about it. That's fridge,
great
lights.
Idea. Yeah.
That's pretty clever.
Yeah.
Wow. I did not know that. And I'm not surprised that you knew that.
And yet they still made the tourists.
There you go. Advances in technology take time, City. Sometimes failures lead to success.
It's a wonderful thing. It just shows you like so for Tesla, what most people don't know, they also make house batteries. So you have your solar panels and the house battery is, I think, 9 or 10 grand.
Yeah.
Which
it sounds
is
about
not a
right.
lot when you're considering how much you pay for solar in your house anyway.
Yeah.
So the idea is that your solar will charge the house battery.
Yep.
You can charge your car off the house battery.
Yep.
And
as opposed to as opposed to plugging it in the wall, which relies on at the moment fossil fuels, right?
I certainly don't think electric cars are for everyone. No way. At this point, no way, because we're still not at the point where it's like for like with a normal engine car. Like a normal engine car, most cars you'll get around 400 k's on a tank on average, no matter how you drive or where you drive. You will not get 400 kilometers on an electric car all day, every day.
Yeah.
Some days less, some days more, you don't know. This is where we have range anxiety. Because you get in it, you're thinking, oh,
am I gonna
make it? Yeah, am I going to make it there on this charge? Which you don't have this problem with a normal car. You don't care. The thing can be on empty, and you know that there's a service station 5-10 minutes away,
and you can get there, and
then you get another 400 k's out of it. Hence, you can drive up to Queensland in one go and not even think about it.
That's true. And I guess
it really
it comes down to your needs, right? You really need to think through exactly at this point in time. And there's a transition phase, like anything, but going electric, it has its pros and cons, but the environmental factors, while it's important, shouldn't be the only factor. I think that's probably the common sense thing that I took away from, what a lot of what you're speaking about. And you're right, it's not for everyone. Maybe in time, as the technology advances, as it will, because that's inevitable. If there's anything we've seen, technology will continue to improve. Absolutely.
I think somehow they make you think that you're more socially responsible if you choose the electrification option, but this is not true, because
not at this point in time. If you're plugging it into a wall, right?
Because most electricity is not clean.
It is because like I said, it's robbing
Peter. Green,
but it ain't clean. Well, it's kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? Yes, you're getting rid of carbon emissions from a car, but the power plant out at where you go, out
your
bush.
Your
lawn out at your lawn
in Morwell,
is,
believe me,
is working twice as hard.
The haze from the coal dust, man, is everywhere. I can feel it as soon as I roll up. Yeah, it's no joke.
So at this point in time, but I guess who have at least they've considered that when it comes to the house battery that you can hook up to your solar panels, and then you'll be able to charge that, and from that charge your car. But if you run about, and
Ford in America, that F-150 Lightning is absolutely amazing. It can do things like the whole frunk of that, because it's a big ute. For those people that are not on YouTube, it's a big ute. Ford F-150, which is the most highest selling ute ever.
It's massive.
Still is.
Yeah, it's massive.
So they make a full electric version that has a frunk that you can use as an esky. You put ice and put all your drinks. You can power all your tools on the work site. You can, as I said, you can power your house for 11 hours if you need to. Plus, you got the ute bed. You can have everything on charge. There's all the lighting in there.
Basically, a workshop. It's a workshop on wheels.
Yeah,
isn't it? When you think about it.
Yeah.
But again,
and that's that's making
purpose.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very functional thing. I think that's where electric cars.
So EV cars in Europe,
cars have their niche, is to have that function.
Well, EV cars in Europe would make sense, I think.
Yeah.
In European countries would make sense.
Yeah.
Because it's shorter distance. It doesn't take that long to get to other countries, depending on where you are, in proximity to borders and things like that. And hey, got the autobahns. At least I've got somewhere they can do some decent speeds.
Well, that's but then if you have an electric car and you're doing over 150, 180 kilometers an hour, yes, you're allowed to, but you're not going to get any range out of that. It's not going to have the range of a car for fuel.
Yeah.
And maybe in Europe they've got more infrastructure because it's smaller.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think electric cars it doesn't work in Australia as an interstate.
Very no, because it's so sparse. Like we're such a the country's so big, right? It's just so big, and at the moment the infrastructure isn't there. And it may, but in time, it will get there.
Yeah.
But I think it'll get there, but still be comparable in the sense of it won't be the same as what you find in Europe as all the power up stations. It may not be as often or as frequent as you see a petrol station, right?
Yep.
Those power up stations in time.
So really, eventually, we should be at the point where it will look like a fuel station, and you just roll up in your EV, you plug in, and it's 5-10 minutes, the same amount of time as what it would take to fill up your car normally.
And now, how long does it take?
Have a coffee.
How long does it take now to charge?
Well, it's around about that. Well, now you need at least an hour to have 80%, that's on the supercharged stations, which are mainly only from Tesla. They're the ones investing in the infrastructure. This is my other point.
Yeah.
And I know I've got a long way to make one point, but EVs, if you're going to go full EV, just go for Tesla.
Because they're
if you intend to make full use of it, because they're the ones.
They're building an ecosystem,
far ahead from
right?
everyone else.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at another kind of EV, then you need to go for something like that MG, which is really on price. It's the same price as anything else anyway. So if you're happy with under 300k range in one day, with all your moving around to pick up the kids and go to work, and then when you get home, you stick it on charge.
Plug it in. Yeah,
it's great. I mean, that would be the amount of money that you'll save on fuel and maintenance. I've done the spreadsheet. It takes EV will only work with the figures when you do the factoring with the finance. You do the factoring with all your maintenance, your fuel costs for average Ks. Most people do on average 15 for 20,000 a year.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
If you service every 10,000 Ks, the average cost for servicing. So you plug all that in into the spreadsheet, and EVs can only come out on top for the same 3 to 5 year range if the price is the same. If the price for your EV to the petrol equivalent is significantly more, you'll have to run the car for 10 years plus in order to make those savings. Because yes, in your mind, you're like, well, I'm not paying for fuel. But you already paid more for the car.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly the same car, just the electric version.
Just the electric version. So that's another consideration to make.
You have to drive.
It's an ROI, right? It's a return on investment calculation.
Yeah. So you need to be a bit more intelligent about it, and not just. I think everyone just thinks, well, I'm not going to pay for fuel, so straight away I'm in front. No, you're not.
Yeah.
Like if you're comparing the Model 3 for Tesla to like a Mazda 3, which is half the price. If you're going to use it for the same purposes, you're paying half the price. So for you to make up the 30 grand in saving on fuel versus electricity, you'll have to run the Tesla for at least for 12 years in order to make back the 30 grand.
And how many people hold on to a car for 12 years?
That's right. So
I mean,
that's what I mean by it really needs to suit your lifestyle, and you've got to have that that a 3 to 5 year plan. And really, if no one really knows what happens to all the modern electric cars after 10 years, no one really knows.
Not yet.
It's an unknown factor. And the major component of the car is the battery, which is not, it's like even for mobile phones now, you can't remove your battery.
No, you can't change them.
Yeah, I'm
You gotta
assuming
change
the
the phone,
process with
right?
an electric car is fairly involved to ship a new battery if the efficiency of the existing one has gone down so much that it doesn't, it'll only go
Can't
for
order.
5Ks and then stop.
Can't order that on eBay. You just
That's
swap it out. You can't do that.
That's it. So I think that's the
Buy them on
that's the
bulk on
main point.
Alibaba.
You're
right.
for
It's
Tesla
fair
batteries.
It is a consideration. I think the common sense approach is, like you said, you've got to look at what's fit for purpose. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but what's fit for your purpose in particular, and really consider all the factors when it comes to it. Because at the moment, the price point is a lot higher compared to your petrol-based cars. I mean, for purpose of comparison, like the cost of my car, the LDV, as a diesel was, more than 60% cheaper than the entry level of a Tesla, right? And I can get a fair amount of mileage out of a diesel car.
Yeah.
But then I've also got that option. I don't have to worry if I want to go to Queensland. I can do it. I don't have to. It's not a consideration of where am I going to get fuel? Am I going to get stuck out there? Because I know that sort of car, particularly diesel, the more open the road, the more fuel efficient it'll be.
In Australia, especially.
Exactly. So, but as far as the hybrids, I don't understand that whole concept, to be honest with you.
Look, the thing with hybrids is
defeats the purpose of what I think what's trying to be achieved. Obviously, you get more fuel efficiency, but it doesn't make it. Does it make it more environmentally friendly? I guess is the question. That to me, you're still using fuel for the purpose of, the car moving. So,
have you seen what the batteries are made of and how they are made and the mining that's involved in making the batteries? They need to stop using the environment as the argument for going electric, because it's for the production that it takes.
But where all these batteries go when
if you're talking about being ethical.
Yeah, but where all the batteries go when they're cooked, when they're done?
Yeah.
How do they dispose of them?
That's right.
I'm talking about a couple of hundred batteries here. It could be hundreds of thousands, millions of batteries.
I think probably the PHEV is for the Goldilocks. It allows you to have for the hybrid doesn't really allow for much range on pure EV mode, because the battery, for the capacity of the battery in a hybrid, is much less than a PHEV. Okay, now a PHEV has more capacity than a hybrid, but obviously not as much as a full EV. So, for example, your full EV, you could run maybe 400 Ks. Obviously, you don't have a choice, it's EV. But the PHEV, you may only be able to do 40, 50 on pure EV.
Yeah.
So that's why it uses
like a backup,
for combination. It uses for combination. So when you're doing really low speeds, it uses EV. Then once you increase speed, it'll switch the electric motor on and it'll run like a normal car.
Yeah.
So that's the idea with the PHEV, and you can plug it in to give you that extra charge if you can, but you don't have to. The car can do it all itself
on its own,
like a hybrid.
It's interesting.
So, short explanation for what's been a long journey is, once you work out what's going to fit your lifestyle, often the fuel consumption is spurious, because remember, PHEV or hybrid has a little bit more weight in it anyway.
So it's
than
going
what
to use more
the
power.
equivalent for just a normal engine anyway. But if you're doing a lot of driving in the city, PHEVs and hybrids make sense because you're doing a lot of start-stop traffic.
Yeah.
And you can just run an EV mode while you're in traffic.
Yeah, that's right. And
So
you get the benefit of it then, right?
Yeah.
Again, fit for purpose.
But if you're
Fits
doing a
in
lot
with
of
your
highway
lifestyle.
driving, going like across the
Well,
state, EV
perfect
just doesn't make
example.
sense.
Well, perfect example is you. An EV car
Yeah.
for you would be pointless. You get
Because I don't
nothing
know
done.
that
Using charge.
range anxiety and having to stop and wait an
Even-
hour
Yeah, exactly.
just
It
wouldn't
just
work.
wouldn't work. No, it wouldn't work at this point with the way the technology is.
Yeah.
Well, there you have
And
it.
plus, for the same type of car, will be a lot more expensive, way out of the price range,
a
and
lot of things to consider.
yeah, it just doesn't make any sense at all. When you could still find a reasonably fuel efficient car, especially for something that weighs nearly 3 tons. She's a big girl, so it doesn't really make, and we're not quite there with the EV on par with quote unquote normal road going cars
with your combustible engine, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah, well, it's certainly food for thought. It's becoming more and more, like I said, a choice that people are considering. I mean, I know people who are making that consideration. I've already said, my next car, it's going to be an EV. It's going to be a Tesla. So, and we're seeing, and you're seeing more and more of it. So it's certainly changing the face of motoring and transport.
If you can afford a Tesla, you should buy a Tesla, because the other companies are only doing it to reduce their overall emissions. So there's laws that have been made in the EU where all the car manufacturers have to have an average CO2 for production. So they have to electrify their models, or some of their models, in order to make
to meet that legislation, right? To meet that,
or else they pay a lot of fines in the
Well, I think
EU,
that's important. I think that's important. I mean, that's a whole discussion in itself. And
I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying that that's the reality of why they are existing.
Encouraging,
and why they're kind of sliding it into the argument all the time to make people go, well, yeah, I can fit an electric vehicle in my life, and it suits me with the price. So then obviously they always have to push the whole sort of issue for luxury and
we'll see more and more of it.
Everything else, that's how it sells.
Definitely. We'll see more and more of it, that's for sure. All right.
But
we've come to the point where we should wrap things up.
Updates first.
Before we wrap it up, I'm sure there's things. Now for our listeners, we've spoken about the blind lion a few times.
Here's Melbourne's
hero.
Update. Here's Melbourne's hero that showed up in the time when we needed a hero the most.
That's where heroes do show up, at the time of need.
Yep,
that is true.
He doesn't have a cape. He's got an orange jumpsuit and a lion's head.
And a lion's head.
And
what's the update with the blind lion?
He's fully legally blind.
Wow.
So there has been a sighting of the blind lion.
What? One of our viewers / listeners is really.
Yeah. Shout out for Natalie.
Really?
She said she did see the blind lion on Station Street in Melbourne a few weeks ago. It was the start of a lunchtime walk.
He gets around.
She was really hungry and she couldn't understand exactly what she was seeing.
She thought it was a mirage.
It was good. So he is out there.
He's in Melbourne.
Out there. We've proven he's not a myth. Yeah.
He gets around. So there you go. One of our listeners. Natalie, a listener or viewer?
She's both. Viewer and a listener.
Oh, fantastic. Well,
so she has nominated him for Mayor of Stonington.
I'll tell you what.
So you've heard it here first. Blind Lion, Mayor of Stonington.
Appeals to the people. It's important. It's important to mix it with the constituents. That's great. Please, anyone else
person.
who does see the blind line, obviously need to be a resident of Melbourne, particularly around the Hawthorn, Glenferrie, Malvern. On occasion, you'll go down to Albert Park for a bit of a stroll. So if you see them, if you see the blind line, he's friendly. You can take a photo, send in a selfie, let us know.
Please.
Our Gmail on 2dads, that's TOOdads.pc@gmail.com. Let us know.
What else have you got? Little dog.
This is something. This is something I knew. This is something. Now, let me just phrase this, because I know you that comment.
Yeah.
That comment's already got. It has been a quick minute. Everyone out of lockdown. Obviously, with things happening in the world, large groups of people getting together and protesting, which in democratic societies we 100% support, has been not possible. But it just goes to show that
we support your freedom to have an opinion.
Absolutely, 100%.
Irrespective of whether you should or shouldn't.
No, 100%. It's a democratic right of people to protest, as long as it is safe, lawful, doesn't hurt anybody. Absolutely. And because of that, because people have been so restricted, we found something very interesting that took place as far as a protest is concerned. One which took us by surprise.
I'm not putting a graphic up.
You can put the graphic up if it's been in it's been in the papers.
I don't actually have it because
you don't have it. I don't want to. I want you to do this because I want you to do this. Yeah, I want you to do it. Explain to the viewers and listeners what protests took place.
I think it was in LA. I think it was in LA.
I'm not sure of where, but it
was. It was somewhere in America, which is which is always an obvious segue into something just being completely pointless. But
yes,
a group of men held a protest in support of men who are not, and I underline not, well endowed. And there was one guy holding up a sign saying,
"The sign was
There's
gold.
nothing wrong with a little dong.
Nothing wrong with a little dong."
Now, I didn't want to work
nothing
blue.
wrong.
I didn't want to work blue. I didn't want this to be a thing in the podcast that we're trying to do, because our parents may listen to this. So
there's nothing wrong. And look, these are people standing up for the democratic. It's clearly something which, maybe there's some sort of stigma around it. They feel it was something that needed to be addressed.
They were wearing full PPE. I must. They were.
Absolutely. They were. Yeah, it wasn't as if they weren't doing it legally. They were doing it right. Some of them were, dressed up for the occasion. There's hot dogs. There's little wieners.
There's little wieners. Here's Frank. Here. So Frank's a cocktail.
It just.
The cocktail winner.
Well, I guess for me, the participants in this, clearly they got something at stake. Is it something they've experienced? Are they? How do I put this? I'm trying to put this as diplomatically as possible.
Choose your words carefully.
Have they been, victims of the little dong? Is this why they thought it was necessary? I didn't think it was a problem. I didn't think it was really something which is,
I don't think it's really something anyone should talk about, really. But
it's bizarre.
But apparently, you can have a parade or a protest, albeit a very small protest, very little parade for a very little problem.
A little problem.
Now, the thing is that they weren't asking for sympathy. They were just wanting to protest against their ill treatment.
Yeah, don't make fun of their little.
Hence the sign. There ain't nothing wrong with little dong.
Ain't nothing wrong with little dong.
It's just one of those intensively strange things that you happen to see.
That's great.
You cannot believe that, other
We see a
human
lot of
beings are
things.
involved.
Well, it's like we said, we 100% support people's opinions, them to voice them, all that sort of thing. But it just,
And there's no
I
such thing
didn't
as
think
a
it was
small
necessary.
voice. Only little dog.
I just didn't think it was necessary. I didn't realize that people were subjected to some sort of ill treatment. Because it's, I mean, put it this way.
It's a
You look at a
private
guy-
thing.
Yeah, you don't know. You can't tell.
Yeah.
Like if you see a guy, you can't tell. You don't look, as in you don't try and work it out.
You don't want to know.
It's not important.
You
If
know,
they have,
I don't want to
they have
share
it.
some sort of man secret here, but when we use the facilities, no one's looking. No one's looking.
No,
You just in there staring at the spot of the wall.
that is the one time in
You
life.
do what you need to, and you get out.
There's one time in life where you do put blinkers on, right?
Yeah. And this just to put this out in general, when you're in there, don't talk. Don't make conversation.
It's not a place
Don't
of
make
conversation.
conversation. It is not a place of conversation.
It's awkward enough. It is
Yeah.
awkward enough to have to overcome the stage or potential stage fright.
Yeah, that's right.
Particularly if you walk up to a urinal.
And don't introduce yourself. No handshaking.
Hi, I'm Sam, and I have a small slong. How do you do this?
Please don't judge me.
But there you go, ladies and gentlemen, viewers and listeners. There was a protest to stop treating men with little dongs the wrong
Small
way.
appendages.
Yes.
The not so well endowed.
We deal with the big problems here on the Two Dads podcast. So
we deal with the big issues.
That's no matter how small they are.
No matter how small they are. And we assure you, it was real.
Absolutely. It's something that
We're not just doing it out of a comedy. But
absolutely. And it wasn't on social media. It was on mainstream, news website. So clearly, if it's important to get on a mainstream news website, it is news to be reported and to be discussed and to be taken seriously, in the sense that demonstrations, as long as they're safe, no one gets hurt, you should absolutely have it. You're right. But interesting.
In that type of protest, you're fully guaranteed that no one's going to get hurt.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's not even going to go close to anyone being hurt. So
that's right. Well, I think we've reached that time.
Yeah, we've reached that time.
So it's been.
So next week we'll have something more serious, but
yes,
we'll get right back to solving the world's issues one. I was going to say one small problem at a time, but
that's enough of the small jokes.
One problem at a time.
Yeah, one love letter at a time. But again, thanks, Sid. It's always a pleasure to sit here and sit down and go through just this sort of stuff. And hopefully the viewers and listeners, thanks for all those who have already tuned in, our subscribers. Thank you.
Thanks for the support.
Appreciate it. If you could, at least give us a like. It helps the channel. Click and subscribe. All the links and details will be in the description below. And again,
feel free to send us any suggestions, especially any sightings of the blind line.
Yes. Yeah, let us know about the blind line.
Or
any odd things.
Or if you have any of the puns or any odd things that you've seen, we're more than happy to talk about it.
Absolutely. Send them our way. We'll include them in the episode for sure.
If you've been into a for new come den, please let us know what the food's like.
This should be interesting food review. Let's wrap it up there. Thanks again for another episode, Sid, and we'll catch everyone next week. Take care, everyone.
Next week.
See you all.
See you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.